follower. You know, Ryan, what would make you think that when you have positioning as a leader as chapter 6, chapter 7 would be positioning as a follower? Um,
There we go, brother. Kudos.
yeah, the organization doesn't let us down, brother. You know what I'm saying? It's a pretty interesting chapter. It was interesting for them to talk about why products fail. What I found really interesting was the positioning of the beetle, where they talked about the positioning of the beetle. Because I remember when, growing up as a kid, there was some people, and the beetle at that point was like, not the love beetle, but I forget the beetle. I think it was number 23, where there was a TV show where the beetle had like its mind of its own, and it was doing, and I'll come up with it because it was like Herbie the Love Bug, I think. And yeah, so as a kid, and the beetle was this like hippie wagon. It was, the free loving, the free spirit. And then when they had to rebrand it, it was interesting because they started this small but effective, small but good kind of mentality. So it was interesting to get the take on, the Beetle, then General Motors, and then or Detroit automakers, I guess, in general. And then talking about the high price Chrono, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that.
I was gonna leave that to you. I was gonna leave start because I know you lived in Montreal and stuff, and I was like, shoot, I do not want to mess this up. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wait for Dan to be the one to first mention. So I'm so happy you did it.
So yeah, I mean, I call it Chrono, brother. I don't know if that's
Sure,
it's the worst French accent that you can ever hear about, but hey, regardless, it was, they took a lot of U.S. philosophy, like bigger is better, that kind of philosophy that they're talking about down here about the U.S. and how the U.S. kind of sees all that. But then when we're getting into it, and he goes into the factory Chrono, and for me, the technology trap was something that I started looking at. And the one thing that I saw in this chapter, and it's funny because I was listening to a podcast last night, and I hadn't even read this chapter yet, just to give everybody some transparency here. And they were talking about the same thing, where every new thing you put into something, it can make it more powerful, but also makes it more complex. Mm-hmm. And that's really what I took from this is, you can fall into the technology trap. Like for example, today, right? AI is the big buzzword. It's the big talk. Everybody's trying to integrate AI into their business. And how does it integrate? What happens? And da-da-da. And as you do that, things can break down. And I don't know about you, Ryan, but I know for myself, the more tech that gets put into vehicles, the more shit goes wrong with them. Right? Like when I was a kid, I had a Lada. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. So I had a Lada, and that thing, you could pretty much fix anything on it with duct tape.
Oh, right? Okay. You're talking about the actual structure of it. Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, actually, the engine too. Like everything was so simple. And when there was carbureted engines and air filter and all these things, where it's like the engine was very simple, and I can bring it back to snowmobiles than cars. Okay, so in the early 90s, the 670 snowmobiles were carbureted snowmobiles. So if something went wrong with the gas injection, like with the gas going in, it was typically the carburetor, where the needle would sit in the seat of the carburetor. Okay. Now, I wouldn't even dare touch an engine of a snowmobile, because literally you plug it in and you could fix almost anything in it besides like pistons or cylinder seals and that kind of stuff. Right. So all these new valves in it, all this new technology, the SDI, the semi-direct injection, and all this stuff. Does it make the snowmobile more powerful? Yes. Does it respond quicker, like quicker throttle response, all that kind of stuff? 100%, brother. But if one little piece of electronics goes wrong, or a fuse to that electronics goes wrong, it throws everything out of whack. And that's kind of what I was seeing in this chapter when they started talking about, the technology bubble and everything that we're adding to it. Is it makes our systems way more powerful, but are they staying simple? easy to diagnose. And that's kind of what I saw. What did you see with this chapter?
Yeah, I saw a lot of great examples. I love the Marlboro example. I read
Yeah.
from this one was there's a lot of status, right? They mentioned sex as one of them, and like like perfume, women's perfume, Chanel number 5. You're talking about that dream scenario of what a follower does, and for anybody, like one of my good friends I mentioned quite a bit, she's went viral on like TikTok. And the one thing that the advice, like we talk every day, and the one advice that she gives me is like, you want to build that like cult like crowd or that audience you want to do if you're doing content creation. I think even like to now, like if you're advertising yourself or positioning yourself in the market, as a freight broker or working with a company, you want to be the person that everybody goes to. You want to be a
Mm,
thought provoker, a thought leader, sorry, in your space. And I really think that's really important. I like I said, I was really enjoying this chapter, maybe because it's probably my last one. But I love the chrono aspects of it. And when they start talking about Michelob, right? And for me, the automatic thing that I think about, Dan, is okay, so this, like I said, written in 2001. These are some great case studies. Where are they now? I look
mm,
they are the sponsored beer, I think, of the NBA. But there's never been a time that I've gone somewhere and I've been like, okay, let me get a Michelob. So what did Coors Light or what did Budweiser do to basically get that in my head or in basically society's head that they're the number one beer, right?
mm,
If we're talking about beer, everyone, they're kind of niche driven and they talk about craft beer. I think craft beer is gross, but that doesn't mean that my opinion matters to somebody who is a craft beer enthusiast. So when
mm.
we're talking, I think they were talking about there was this one company that came out with like whiskey, I think it was, Dan. They said it was like the first dry white whiskey. And then they kind of just lost in the market because they were so out of touch, meaning that their messaging was so unclear. When somebody sees something that like white whiskey, you're gonna associate that with like white rum or like vodka
Yeah.
or any kind of white spirit from there. So sometimes you hit it on the nail on the head, but most times it falls flat. But how do they bounce
Mhm.
back from that?
Yeah, because when you see whiskey, you typically think that dark
Yeah.
liquid with either a big ice cube or two medium-sized ice cubes, and that's kind of like the drink, right? Where it's when you look at something else, you're immediately thinking a different kind of alcohol. And it's like anything, right? Whiskey drinkers are serious. Most whiskey drinkers are serious whiskey drinkers. Like
Yep.
they enjoy the whiskey. I have a friend of mine. He loves craft beer, and literally every time he goes, it's 6 different beers. And for somebody who I think bourbon, Scott says, there you go. You think bourbon, yeah, bourbon, whiskey, scotch, that kind of thing. And so what he does is he loves craft beer. So he just gets like 6 different kinds of craft beer. And I remember asking him because he was coming over. And so Christine went out and got, different craft beers. And I remember asking him when we were sitting at the kitchen table playing cards, I said, like, why don't you don't like one in particular? He goes, oh, no, I do. I have certain ones I really like. And I said, well, why don't you ever get them? He goes, because I want to try them all. And
Yeah.
he goes, and some, yeah, I'm just like, nah, I won't get that again. But
Yeah.
it's like, I look at it and to me, that's weird. Okay, call a spade, and only because I'm the type of person when I find something I like, I stick with it because I don't want to be disappointed. Like when I go to Swiss Chalet, it's
Oh,
a quarter chicken dinner, dark meat with fries and 3 chalet sauces. Like I don't even need a menu. I hear the ribs are good, but I'm a and I'm afraid to try something new
yeah.
because I'm afraid to be let down. So when I go to Swiss Chalet, I'm craving the dark chicken leg with the fries and chalet sauce. If I was craving ribs, I would probably cook them at home. Does that make sense? So it's like I start analyzing that in my head and I say, am I afraid to change the meal or do I just have my mind set on dark meat, French fries, and chalet? It's a diet chalet sauce. So it's really
Yeah.
good stuff.
Well, it's your choice.
Um,
Like we had Rico on yesterday. It's your choice of
yes.
what to think. For me, I'm completely the opposite, Dan. I don't have like get like one certain like I don't like getting one certain thing. I always like trying different things.
Mhm.
With craft beer, I've tried a bunch of them so that I can get understand it. Like there was a period of time, Dan, that I didn't like wine. So I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm not just gonna write off wine. So my wife and I we went to Niagara region and we did a bunch of wine tours. And there were some wines that I really like and some
Yeah.
ones that I didn't really like. But I think you find that out. um you and I, my wife and I, we always go to the all you can eat sushi, right? And I feel like when the risk is very low when you're trying foods or trying anything else, then you're more willing to take that choice, right? Because there's no, if you go to an all you can eat sushi place and then you grab something you don't like it, well, they're not gonna. It's part of your bill, right? But as opposed to, hey, you paid $20 for that item, and then we're kind of generational, like our parents kind of told us, hey, you order it, you eat it, right? So I think that that's so amazing to think about that as a follower, right? Because it
Yeah.
ties into this book so great because you're talking about the Swiss Chalet for everybody. Like Scott is watching. Swiss Chalet is like a chicken joint here in Canada. When they start marketing, when you see that like that festive special coming up, Dan, you're gonna be like, I really want some Swiss Chalet. You probably won't
Mhm.
even try the festive special, right?
Nope.
But with that being said, you'll get what you like. So there's two, right? It's the power of choice and being able to try to like being able to go ahead with what you really like. From like I said, for my wife and I, when it comes to food or just different things, we like to try like even grocery stores. Dan, like we don't go to the same grocery store every week. We'll go to a brand new grocery store. There's certain patterns in our errands, like we'll end up at like Winners or HomeSense and things like that. But for us, it's like kind of getting a different environment and being like, okay, well, either I really like it, or either I really don't, and it is what it is at that point.
So I like that you brought that up because that brings up another interesting point. Um, you see, I'm the exact, so not exactly the exact opposite, but I prefer to go places where I know where stuff is. So,
Mm,
especially when it comes to groceries, like not everything, but especially for groceries, because I know like we have the staples in our house that we typically get every week, which
yeah,
I think everybody does,
the
right?
pantry stuff, yeah.
Well, yeah, the pantry stuff, the stuff that we like to eat. Like one thing for us is crushed bacon bits for like salads and stuff, right? Or the different kinds of nuts and seeds for salad toppers and stuff. And I know exactly where they are at Real Canadian Superstore.
Mm,
I have no idea where they are at Walmart. I have no idea where they are at Zehrs or President's Choice. So when we do stop in at a different grocery store, um, the one thing I do like is I got to reset my framework for how I shop. So when you go, you know it as well. When you go to somewhere all the time, you have this pattern that you follow in the
yeah,
store,
but like,
right?
I think I started doing that, and like, kudos to you for doing that, Dan. I would challenge you to try somewhere else because reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle that we did was like being in the now, right? So you're kind of like
Mhm.
in autopilot. You got your list. You're like, okay, chicken next. I know where this thing is, and then when Keish and I started going to like different grocery stores, and that's a simple change to us. It was like, oh, look at this ethnic thing. Like, can we use it? There's stuff that we've bought that are still in our pantry. We just have to find a use for it. But for us, it's like, like, hey, we can throw it in. Like, you're making a soup, just throw it in there or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
yeah.
I feel like there is, like, we're very spontaneous people. And I think it goes like based on personality because there's no wrong one or no right one. Like,
No,
do whatever you
no,
want to do. Like, get
no.
your
And
bacon
and
bit.
for me, it's a matter of uh, I I see the act of grocery shopping as a waste of my time. We've tried the food delivery places but
But
they
what
just
would you be
don't.
doing in place of that? Like, if you're saying something a waste of time, because that's a very bold statement to make, right?
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
what would you be doing in place of? And for everyone who's watching out there, like grocery shopping only takes like 30 minutes to an hour, and I consider like me bonding with my wife, right? Because where we're having
Hmm.
that alone time together in the superstore. But what is
Yeah.
that?
So we don't
What?
do that. I typically go,
Oh, okay.
but I would be watching something educational, reading, hanging out, other things that I feel I could be doing. And now you got to remember, so probably a little bit different too. I'm a minimum of 30 minutes away from any grocery store. So
Mm,
like I have to drive to the grocery store, then do the groceries, then drive back home, right? So well, maybe not 30, probably 25 minutes. Um, so for me, it's almost an hour just to and from. And then
yeah.
call it 35, 40 minutes. So for me, if I can take my grocery shopping and cut it down to 15 minutes instead of 40 minutes, I'm saving that 40 minutes. So I'm like, so that for me literally is the conversation in my head as I go to the grocery store. Am I going to this one where I know it's going to be 45 minutes, or am I just doing this one, quick and dirty in and out? I know where everything is. And I can literally well, it's pretty much like you said, I can run through the store completely unconscious, get all the groceries, right? Whereas when you go to a new store, it's like, okay, you're looking around, you're getting
But
orientated,
you're
you're like,
better that
okay.
way, though. No, like you're
Yeah,
better at
well,
like,
yes and
yeah.
no. Yes and no, because there's staples that we love And it's not just like milk and cheese, right? There's staples that we love that I can't necessarily find at other stores. So it's twofold for me. There's staples we love, like there's these buttermilk chicken tenders that are at Real Canadian Superstore. I've tried so many different stores where it's like the same thing and they're just not as good. So it's like, okay, we're out of those tenders, so I am going to Real Canadian Superstore because that's where I know how to get them. Our dog's food, for example, I make them this turkey and rice and spinach and zucchini and carrot mix. So anytime we need dog food.
I was gonna say, when we need dog, what you guys get
Yeah,
dogs at?
anytime we don't need any more dogs, but anytime we need dog food, it's a Real Canadian Superstore thing, not a Walmart or anything. And I'm sure I can get it at Walmart, but I know exactly where it is at the Superstore. Like the bag that I buy is a specific like weighed out amount. So
Yeah,
if I start buying other things, and I'm like now I'm calculating and I'm all about like
yeah.
organized, right? Like I'm Christine will tell you I'm in and out of pretty much any store I go into as fast as possible. Like I don't like browsing in stores, just looking around. Like I always
What does
know.
Christine think about that? Like, is that just who
She doesn't
you
like
are?
it.
Huh?
She doesn't like it. Christine likes
Yeah,
to browse.
yeah. Like, why not?
Um, and I don't know. I look at it and I just say, we're in here for this purpose. Let's get it done and get out. And I don't know. It's just something about stores, something about being like I can putz around in my garage all day
Yeah,
and get minor things done all day. And I come in and I feel very productive. If I go grocery shop and I'm in that store for longer than 40 minutes, I don't feel productive. It's a really weird thing that
yeah.
goes on in my head,
That's a weird
brother.
thing,
But
man.
yeah,
You gotta see something.
Christine likes to pawn. Like she often tells me 100%, like, I don't really like shopping with you because she always feels rushed because
Yeah,
I
exactly.
give
Yeah,
off
I would
this.
feel rushed too. Yeah, I'd be like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
this.
do. I give off this aura of like, yeah, let's go, let's get it done, let's get the hell out of here. Move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing, move on to the
Yeah,
next thing. Where it's like,
you're not enjoying the now, man. You're not
well,
enjoying it.
yeah, I guess you know what? It's a very good point you bring up, Ryan. I think about it as like I find. So let me rephrase. I find my head is always going back to, okay, let's get this done so we can move on to other things and get more tasks done in a day, right? In essence, and there's different time periods that this happens, like when we're closing up for winter or when we're opening for summer and stuff. Like there's certain weekends where Christine will say, like, do you want to get? And I'm like, no, I'm just too busy. Like I got too much going on. I want to get the backyard done before we do this and this. And just kind of the way my brain works, I guess sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, you're right. I probably gotta slow down. I know
Well, it's not
Christine
even
would
slowing
probably
down. I
really
think it's just
appreciate it.
like embrace, like, and like we're this is not scripted or anything like that, but like I feel like, you know, life is so precious in terms of that. Like Keish and I, like we have our days. Sundays is our day, where it's the Lord's Day, right? So we take a big break. There's nothing, no tasks that need to be done on a Sunday other than us getting our groceries, running our errands, bonding, doing our different things. And I think that what works. Like for me, it's a reset, right? So
Yeah.
I love like Keish. Like one thing with Keish, when we go to Costco, we literally walk every single aisle, and it's a fun game. It's like, oh, like hey, like it's kind of, you always find something in every aisle. And as we're coming up to Christmas season, I know Keish and I will be going to malls and different things like that and do that. But like these are the things, Dan, that make me working from home worth it. Right. Because it's just like that
Ah.
interaction as well. Like, but I used to love to do this stuff before when I worked like in an office and stuff like that. But it makes me complete. It gives me a reason to like, okay, well, this is the fruit of my labor. It's like anytime I order something on Amazon, it's kind of cheating, I kind of think, right? Because yes, I need it right now.
Mm.
You order it and then it comes and then you're like, yeah, and then it's whatever, right? But when I can see things like tangible, touch things, and actually use our five senses, right? And I was
Yeah.
actually watching that in a video the other day about like using your five senses with these things. But yeah, man, you gotta start going shopping, man. You gotta go see
This
Santa.
is interesting because I'm pretty much the exact opposite.
Bring
Like
Christine
I
on this
don't
call,
mind.
man. Bring Christine on this episode right now. She's home.
So
Tell her to
here's the
hop.
thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, like we went to a mall last weekend, I think, or the weekend before. Christine needed to go to Bath and Body Works to pick up some candles and stuff. And like we pull in the parking lot of the mall, and I'm like, oh my god, not a chance. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going in there. It was a zoo, and
Yeah.
literally to the point where the only parking spot I can find was behind the mall in front of the dumpster.
That's what happened
Like,
to
and I
us.
just had
Yeah.
to sit there and
Yeah.
wait.
Oh, you
And
did? You waited?
Yeah. Like she was just running in to get candles and
Yeah,
then
but
coming
like,
out. So I
okay,
was
so
like,
I
okay,
gotta, I
well,
gotta, I gotta, I know you're married a lot longer than I am, but I gotta give there's some like gray area with that. She didn't just
okay.
want to go to that one place, Dano. She wanted to like browse, look at Christmas stuff. She didn't want to because it's not that thing. Because Keish and I we went to First Marketplace and the same thing you said, Dan. So it's a huge ass parking lot. Nobody could get a parking spot. I literally had to. So I dropped Keish to the front, and then I literally drove maybe 5 minutes away to another plaza that was like not attached to the mall, and then I walked over. And then we
Yeah.
probably spent like 2.5 hours there just kind of checking out different cool things. But yeah, like I
Yeah. Ah.
and everybody in the audience, let us know. Are you a shopper or are you calculated? Are you a machine? Are you Terminator
So
like
are
Dana?
you are I don't know if it would be called a shopper or a browser.
Both. I'm always coming. We're always coming. Hey, our credit cards definitely don't like us when we do this. But this is like I said, this gives me more
Your
reason
credit
to.
cards definitely say you're not browsing. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
You're
The credit
browsing.
card's not browsing.
Yeah, got it.
It's definitely
Got
not.
it.
But
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's interesting. It's not a crowd thing. It's just a I don't know. I don't know what it is. Um, I just I've never enjoyed malls at this time of year.
hmm. But
Ever. Like even as a kid, I would be like,
yeah.
"Holy crap, look at all these crazy people." Like I would just watch and I remember as a kid with my parents being in the mall just observing all these what I called crazies. Just like people arguing
Uh,
and yelling because they're like things are taking too long or their food's not coming. And I remember it being in malls in Quebec and just like looking at my mom and dad going like, wow, what's that must be having a really bad day. And I don't know if maybe that's where it all comes from. But yeah, I try and stay like Amazon for me is a godsend at this time of year because I could just be like, okay,
nah,
back to what
nah,
I'm
man.
doing. And then all of a
Pick up
sudden the
pick
stuff
up the
arrives and then
items. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
so no, I think yeah, even like
You
even
think
if
I need
Keisha
to
was
get
like,
out more? Is that what you're saying?
well, no, I think okay, so let's talk about this a bit because like this is a very interesting topic because there's always different sides of people. So, like you said, you don't enjoy it, but these are the things that we do for our partners, right? So for myself, like if
Yes.
Keish was to go to Home Sense, I'm not gonna lie, if Keish texts me right now, she's like, yo, I'm going to Home Sense, and I'll be like, bitch, you're not going without me. Like, wait till I'm done work. We're gonna go together.
Yeah.
Because
Would you really say that?
I'll be like, "No, you're not. What are you grabbing?" I want no. I think I would text back like, "Hey, I want to come," but I
Yeah.
think, with both of us, like, both of us work full time. You and your wife work full time. There's very limited time other than at the dinner table every single day that you get to like be in a different environment. And for like we said, we've always make it a priority to have date day. We're actually gonna grab some pho tonight after we're both done work, and have that ability to decompress and talk. That's not at home. And I feel like that's such a great like and great and there's a lot of creative ideas, Dan, too. Like I feel like when I walk through like Home Sense or like Winners with Keish, like we'll obviously separate. Like I'm not going clothing shopping with Keish, like in the women's aisle. Like we'll separate and things like that, and then
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
meet up
For
at the
sure.
end.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But like I guess like so many ideas because I'm like, okay, well, hey, maybe I want to reach out to this customer. I wonder how this product got into here, and that's my logistics mine. Or I wonder why did they
The
price
LB
this at
kicking in.
this? Yeah, but why did they price it at this as well? So I'm thinking about like profit margins and all that fun stuff. And I think, there's always a reward of it too. We'll always grab food or like grab some ice cream or do something like that. Like is a nice like because no one's ever like I think even in K we always get bubble tea. That's our thing these days. But yeah, no, I encourage you, man. Especially this is the time, man. Tis the season, tis the season to be out and about and being with the Christmas cheer and being out with Christine, buying the candles, buying the blankets, buying all the random stuff that you're like, we're gonna put in the basement anyways, but it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter.
That is true. That is true. That's good, brother. That's good. Well, I don't know if we talked much about the book, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, the book is it's I like the part. There's only one comment I really want to make about it. I started reading Never Eat Alone yesterday. In a
Great
great
book.
great book. So I just started yesterday, and the last line in this book, they start taking. If you really want to stick out, you got to network, make some friends. What does it actually say? It says like, hey, what is it? Blah, 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 blah. Da, 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 da. To win in today's competitive environment, you have to go out and make friends, carve out a specific niche in the market, even if you lose a few doing so. I think that is so important with everybody creating wanted to be a connector. And I think that's kind of like, when you start like you read things and you're like, holy crap, I'm that person or I'm not that person.
Yes.
I'm reading that as I'm reading this book right now, and I'm like, okay, well, and then I'm seeing this again, in this book here. So I think, if you really want to really be competitive in this market, right, regardless of all the news, the doom and gloom that you kind of see in the logistics space, you got to kind of think outside the box. Try new things. I've been having a lot of success with like I said, doing videos, doing voice notes, being somebody who is pretty straightforward. And I talk about social brand quite a bit, Dan. I have no problem with like posting on my LinkedIn about my dogs or like my Toastmasters and people to get to know me. I had a comment from a prospect who turned into a customer that said, it literally said word for word, Dan, that, Dan, Ryan, after I got off the call, I checked your profile and it was very commendable. And that was one of the best compliments I ever got, because that was more than us selling logistics or selling trucks
Hmm.
or selling all these things. And
Yep.
we didn't even have to talk about goals and all that stuff. That stuff will come. I'm not worried
Yep.
about that stuff. But like, we need to get back into like relationship based stuff. And
Hmm.
I think this chapter was really good because you're talking about the leader, but like now it's like the follower, and
Yeah.
it's like that dance. You can always be a leader, you can be a follower, but you're not stuck to one position. Hey, positioning. You can always mix between both.
Yeah. And it's a even more to that point where Ryan is the ability to have a conversation with somebody, them and go on your social profiles and see you,
Yes.
right? Because instead of somebody you're portraying to be, so you're you. This is who you are. This is your beliefs. This is what you love.
Yep.
You're not hiding that from anyone, and you're saying, "Here's what it is." And after, like, I don't know how many people we've had on here to say, like, your LinkedIn profile is now your resume, right? It's your digital resume in today's world of business. Most people will go to your LinkedIn page. Um, I look at, my son going into fire, and
Yes.
they're scanning his social media
Yep.
for fire. And it's like, okay, are you the person you say you are on these papers you're filling out? Or are you not? And social media has canned so many people from getting their dream jobs
Well, they've
with
canned
companies.
themselves. They've canned
Well, yes,
themselves, Dan.
sorry, I apologize.
They've
Yes,
canned
they've canned
themselves.
themselves. That's actually a
Yeah,
better way of putting it.
because
Yes.
I'm finding a lot now. Well, there's two things right now if we want to talk about career for a little bit, but career right now is kind of like who the networking that you're doing, right? You go to apply a job on LinkedIn, you're like, okay, cool, I'm within the first 15 applicants. You look at tomorrow, there's like over 500 people who've applied. So it's always kind of like who which I don't actually have a problem with. I think if I was hiring somebody, I would want to at least know who they are or like what their background and stuff like that is. And I'm sorry, like I don't see it a lot though, Dan. I think people have smartened up. But if you are going to be somebody who is, like politically, or somebody who's going to be, posting like, let's say you're a logistics rep and you're posting about, oh my God, all these truck drivers, they suck and all that stuff. Well, realistically, like if you're not going to work for an asset company, they're just not going to want you. Right. So be
Mhm.
protective. Like I know what I'm seeing too, Dan, it's a lot of the old people. I hate to say this, but it's all like the Facebook old people who just won't adapt to technology now. I'm
Yes.
noticing a lot of the younger people, well, I'm not young, but like my generation, millennials and Gen X and stuff like that, they're very protective of their personal brand. Gary Vee said on a video a couple weeks ago that 2024, it's not going to be about brands. Every single person is going to be a marketing agency. So
Yes.
that's what he's kind of seeing for like content creating. And I think, you have to keep it clean. I really do. Even if you have those thoughts, like, I'll be honest with you, if anybody was to come over to like Christmas dinner or like Thanksgiving dinner at our house, our whole family would get canceled, right? Because they have like these horrible ideas or thoughts from when they grew up and like the way that they talk about things. But it's not to say that you can't put out a good profile and show a good image and be yourself. But
Mhm.
I I don't know. I think you just gotta be smarter. But like I said, Dan, it's really the old people. I don't see it now anywhere that someone's kind of like, I can name a few old people on this platform right now, but I won't. But then I'm like, you guys are so out of touch. There's the word,
Mm.
out of touch.
I think, Ryan, there's an audience for everyone. And I think if anything, Facebook has shown that. Um, and I'm not don't get me wrong, I don't sit there and go on Facebook for hours, but I know just even as much as the Facebook community in my town, or the Facebook communities for snowmobiling and the Facebook communities for this and that, like, a lot of it is just complaint after complaint after complaint after complaint. Um, And it's, I see social media and things that happen and the way people react. I'm not even going to say respond, react to things that happen. There's still an audience for them,
Yes.
right? And this is the big thing about social media, is there's going to be a bubble for everyone that connects with,
Yep.
right? The challenge, I think, is if you're not yourself. So you take, the Instagram, the shit that happens with like Instagram, where people go out and they take out a loan for 50 grand, they cash it all in, they rent a Ferrari for the day, and they put the money on the Ferrari and say, hey, this is what I've done, I've made this, and it's all BS, right?
Yeah.
Like, that to me is where your prospect searches you online, because I think in today's day and age,
Yeah.
especially in today's day and age, if you don't think your prospects are searching you when there's an interest, I think you're totally wrong. Searches you online, and the congruency is not there
Yeah. Yeah.
between what you say and what you put online. And that doesn't even have to come in a form of content creation. It's just reposting or commenting on other people's posts,
Yeah. Because
where
that's
you
what
might not have created the content, but you're expressing your opinion on other people's posts.
yeah.
Um, if that's not congruent with who you are, then you should really sit back and say, well, who in the hell am I? And what do I want my message to be? And Ryan, don't get me wrong. I'm not I struggle with social media. I really do.
Hmm.
Um, I'm a private person. I'm very rarely will you see me post about my personal life. And I've had so many people tell me, well, you have to. And I'm just like, yeah, but
No, you don't have
that's
to.
kind of my personal life. I
Yeah. Yeah.
don't, I like to keep it separate. And I am the same person sitting right here with you that I am off. And you can probably, that probably better than most people. Um, but also on the flip side of it, right? I look and I say, huh. So if I would have been that person that put my life out online, where would I be?
See, I
And
don't.
what would be the,
Yeah, like, I don't I
not
no,
fallout,
you
but
can be a private person. There's so many private people that I know, that have made it. So it's your message, right? So it's not
Mhm.
about being like putting it out there. I like to put myself, because I do some pretty cool stuff like on my like Instagram and like TikTok and stuff like that. So I choose to do that. But there is a line that I just won't cross, right? There's people who like daily, and this is completely off topic, but they like vlog their entire day. Well, I wouldn't want to do that, because like I just wouldn't. It's just not me. But you'll see me either talking about sales, or you'll see me. Alex Hormozi made a post a couple days ago, Dan, that I think would be really really cool with this. He's like, everybody thinks that you got to pick a niche, or like you got to pick up niche, or whatever you want to call it. But people need to realize that they are the niche. The Rock talks
Mhm.
about tequila. He talks about working out. He talks about WWE. Like, these are his things that he talks about. He's a thought leader in that. Joe Rogan, he talks about aliens, UFC, his
Yeah.
podcast, all those things. Just like you, Dan. Like, you
He
talk
talks about
logistics.
everything, Joe Rogan.
Well, he
Like,
has
pretty
5 main
much everything.
topics. Well, it's because he brings the guests on, right? But before his thing, he was really talking about, if you really watch like his shows and the ways that he talks about certain topics, there's some favorite ones that he has. Like
Yeah.
aliens, like you Google like Joe Rogan aliens, you'll see so many amazing videos about it. And I think even with yourself, Dan, like I see like logistics, I see like snowmobiling, I see your dog. Like, there's certain things that you just love talking about that people fall in love with, right? So I don't agree in the thing that you have to be like a public person. Like I
Mhm.
said, there's so many like people I'm seeing in the SaaS world right now that I couldn't tell you like where they lived, or like if they even married, if they have anything, because they just put out like sales focused stuff. Like, hey,
Yes.
here's some cold calling tips, here's some cold email, here's some lead generation tips, and their personality shows, but I don't know anything about them, and
Yeah.
nor would I want to know anything about them, to be completely
Yep.
honest.
Yeah, and it's the way I started with all social media, was
Yep.
there was nothing about me. I mean, I think this show is the first time we've ever delved into any parts of my life besides sales training and sales coaching and logistic sales in general.
Mhm.
Which is a reason why I love the show, because it's a little bit of an outlet, right? Where
Yeah.
it's live, but it's an interactive conversation, as opposed to hey guys, hey, look at me at the gym. I just took a picture of me at the gym. And that for me is one of the things that, um, like, yeah, just and again, this goes back to what we had at the beginning of the conversation. Like, when you're in the gym to work out, not to take selfies and post them.
I
Is
mean,
the
a
way my
selfie takes a
brain
second.
works.
Yeah, a selfie takes a second though, right? So it's like it's not
Yes,
what's a second of a like a 30-minute or an hour workout, right?
I
So
get it, but
yeah.
again, and this is where, when we talk about that mind flip, right? So this, I'm probably one of those people, um that you think of, and just changing the context, but that you think of like with Facebook, is that like I'm sitting there and I think, okay, a gym is for working out. Stop taking pictures of yourself in the gym. In my mind, I go, nobody wants to see it, but people do want to see it because there's a
Yeah.
market for it, right?
Oh
So
yeah, of course. Of
it's like,
course.
okay, why would you want to see this person? Like, go work out yourself. Like, why would you want to see this? I don't know. I just never got it, brother. I never got, and I
Yeah.
maybe one day it'll be like, that's it. But I see pictures of friends in the gym and I harass them. I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I know when I've shown up to calls for you and I, where I'm just about to get my shirt on and stuff, you're like, dude, I'm not paying for that. You get like, you gotta cover that up. And it's just, to me, it's comical, but there is a huge market for it,
Yeah, the
right? Like
fitness
a
industry is a
huge market for it.
billion, and I'm seeing people. That's why I'm loving the marketing agency because I see people posting those things, and then okay, well they start getting a following, and like like you'll see like if we want to talk fitness specifically, I've seen companies like partner up pre workout or like protein shakes or something like that, like team up
Hmm.
with that person because they know that
Yep.
they're going to get that brand recognition, right?
Hmm.
So no, I think I always kind of say this like when it comes to content or like whatever strategy you want to do or brand or whatever it is, the worst video that you can make or the worst piece of content that you can make is the one that you don't post. And I'm a
Yes.
big believer in that. I think content is like we talk about AI being the buzzword and the keyword and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Content's the one has been taking the over that in terms of mind frame because everyone's talking about a brand, right? Like we can talk about this for days where, back in the day, we don't do the logistics. Sorry. If we want to make content for logistics, we just reshare our company's posts, right? They were so
Yes.
boring. They were just a typical truck in Canva, like, and it's in on the horizon and being like, hey, I hope you guys have a great day. And it's all that stuff. But now you can actually have a voice. And I think
Hmm.
next year specifically, and maybe we'll go back to this in a year, but I think next year is going to be that B2B marketing influencer is probably going to be the top, that connector that we're really talking about,
The
that
agencies that
the
focus on the connecting is
the
kind of the
connecting,
middle
like these
level
guys don't
logistics.
they own like their own company, they're a marketing agency, but they're not attached, so they can work with Zoom Info, they can work with like Warmly, they can work with these various companies and not be an employee, right? They're going to be that
Yeah.
independent contractor.
Yep. Yep. I agree with that. I think that's the one of the middle layers that needs to be adjusted and looked at. You know, yeah, what a great episode, brother. Like, I think, what a great episode to send you off on. And I just want to say before we head out today, brother, it's been an absolute joy and just a such a good time. I love the fact that we don't agree on anything, but yet by the end, it's like we both see each other's point, and hopefully that gives you, the audience, a better understanding, a better visual of, you know what, you got two guys that come from really two separate worlds of logistics when you look at it from a time frame, right? I'm almost 30 years, you're almost 10. Those are two very different times in logistics,
Yeah.
and come together, and two people who met through a simple sales training, who then saw like, wow, I need this information, and developed and built a strong bond above and beyond all of that, and then being able to sit here and say, move from teacher and student to friend and colleague and business partner, and being able to say, yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that, but this is how I see it. I'm like, oh wow, you got some great points there. And you're like, you got some great points there. And the conversations always come to a wicked conclusion. I want to thank you for that. I honor you, brother. I tell you, you're like BFF, you know
100%, always,
or
man.
PFF.
Yeah.
And the stuff I've learned from you, that I'm going to continue to learn from you. They do say one thing in any industry is, you know the students become the teachers for the most part. And I love the fact, because I can honestly and with the utmost respect call you a teacher and mentor. And I love that. Most teachers would be like, oh, I can't ever say that. But no, I think it's bullshit. I mean, I love that. I learn from you every day. Hopefully I give back some of that to you as well. And, buddy, I appreciate you, and I know you're going to rock it with whatever you're doing that's going to take this place. And I do know we're going to still come back once every 2 weeks or something for you and I to get together on one of these live calls. For everybody watching and listening, the format is going to change a little bit come Monday. Going to be more pre-recorded but we're going to still post them live. But just so you guys know, full transparency, going to be pre-recorded. A little bit more on the technical side when it comes to training diagrams, processes, frameworks, that kind of stuff. Got a bunch of authors lined up for the new year. So hopefully bring you some new ideas and strategies from people that actually, you can sit down and consume their books or their content and look at it. That kind of stuff. Got some old friends coming back when it comes to like the Brian Byros and the Rico Rakoskis and stuff that we just had on yesterday. So we should be walking into the new year in a really good position. So that's it from a sales chatter level. But Ryan, from a co-host level, brother, you were rocking, man. And you know what? For you to take the reins when I got sick, that I don't think I can ever express how much it meant to me. You and Jeff doing what you did. Just thank you, I guess. And I know those two words don't do it justice, and I will find a way to do it justice. Let me tell you that.
No, I can't thank you enough for giving me this opportunity. First and foremost, this has been one of the coolest things, and it invigorated me. It opened up some really cool doors. Talked to some amazing people, networking, and I can't thank you enough for the show. Like this is really cool. Like normally, like call a spade, but normally when there's a two host show, and one leaves, it's usually because of conflict. And I can
Yeah.
honestly say, honest to God, all my dogs and everything like that, everybody watching, it's not that at all.
Oh, my dogs, I
Yeah,
love that because you don't have kids.
it's not that at all. So, see, there we go. Right. So that's the one that really sticks. So
It's okay.
I
I like my dogs more. No,
yeah,
I'm just joking, kids.
me
If
too.
you're
I do.
watching, I'm just
Well,
joking.
there we go. There's a reason why you don't like to get involved, right?
My
Um,
kids aren't watching, Ryan.
yeah, yeah. I say the same thing about my wife. That's why I say anything on the show. But it's been a really cool opportunity. Like I said, some really amazing things that are coming up. And like I said, this is not a goodbye or like forever. This is kind of like a see you later. We're looking forward to blowing up Bridger next year. Looking forward
Yeah.
to more cool, really, really cool things coming out next year. So everybody tune in, tune in on Sales Chatter Live every single day. Keep supporting the channel, keep it growing, and most importantly, you guys keep growing because we learn from you
Yes.
guys as much as we learn from each other.
I agree.